what is it like to be a 回归宝宝 every year? When they say there's a ceremony, it's like my birthday.
I'm very grateful that they always think of me. And I think a lot of the, so we don't do celebrations
do your family
every year.
members do joke about that?
Oh, of course they do.
They do. Yeah, they take every opportunity to joke about that. Yeah.
I think it's 5 years ago. I have a very unique experience that we planted a tree in Macau. They invited like a bunch of our 回归宝宝 to each plant a tree in Macau. So I now always have this trend with this memory.
Did you go back and visit your tree?
So I always visit it, and it's like a long-lasting like memory for me, and I love it. Then I really appreciate it that my mom has urged me to come back to plant the tree back then.
You were working so hard with your colleagues and friends at COP29 in order to use the passion and the enthusiasm of the youth to ignite the enthusiasm of the public for climate actions. Tell me about your takeaway from Baku.
The biggest takeaway from Baku is you really need to understand the cultural differences and the diversity, because having the opportunity to bring in all the multi-stakeholder to the same place is very hard.
Right.
And that's why COP can only happen once a year. But I think the most important thing is being the ability to see each other face to face and be able to have all these bilateral talks behind the scene and able to having a same impact and working towards the same goal and having all the people there with a similar goal is a very hard thing. Everyone have their own thoughts, own perspectives, and also needs from their own country. So for example, small island countries, of course, they're worrying about the sea level rising. Some other countries will be more on emissions and adaptation. So it's very important to understand the needs of different stakeholders, different countries, but in the same time, trying to find the middle ground that we can all accept and we can all continue to make a step forward.
Describe to me your daily routine in Baku.
Daily routine in Baku, okay. Every morning, I think I wake up at around 7. Sometimes earlier, depending on the first meetings.
Yes.
Usually, I think I'm now having 4 to 5 events a day.
Wow.
For myself, but in the
That's
same
a
time,
lot.
because we still have pavilion work, so Tsinghua is able to have our own pavilion this year and last year. And then we also support the work with China Pavilion, with our students.
Yes.
And then also, more importantly, my events that I need to go to is to attend other pavilions, other countries' events to talk about China, to talk about Gaok, to talk about youth.
This University Alliance for Youth on Climate Action is very unique. It's been there for years, but the whole purpose is to gear up more efforts.
Yes.
Through the voice of young people.
Yes.
From all over the world.
Yes.
You got 15 universities, right?
15, yes.
Wow. What was it like to communicate with every one of them, to bring everybody on board, on the same consensus?
Firstly, just to make time, like finding a time for all 15 universities to meet is basically impossible. Well, we're grateful with the current technology. We could do it by Zoom, we could do it by online.
Right.
But however, we also realize that without the in-person component, it is different. Like having the ability to group people together, to see each other's faces,
Right.
to see like the emotions, the energy is different. But we are still making it happen.
Yeah, I think you're making it happen. I heard through the grapevine that there were some very active debate and discussions going on among you guys.
I think for the university itself, it's more on a positive basis. We are more positive, and we are working together on like research, joint research, youth mobilization, public engagement. So things like that are in some ways easy, but when it gets to like COP, when it gets to a country level, then things are more
complicated and nuanced. Yeah.
Yes. But the thing is, what is very good is that with the alliance, we have this historical, synergetic, this binding together. Then we have a common trust.
Yeah.
There's, at least with the work of the Secretariat of the Global Alliance,
Yes.
I think the university representative at least have a trust with us. So in the international event context, we have this friendship, that we have this friendship, that we trust each other, and we have this energy that we do something together, do something impactful together.
Think about the climate issue. It's a very dividing issue, even though it is something that we all face together, every one of us on the earth. But also politics and geopolitics only make it even more complicated. Not to mention, different interests coming from developing countries, developed economies, island states, and the list goes on. So what has this process meant for you to understand the complexity, both the complexity and also the common purpose of today, our world today?
I'm very lucky to be able to study in different countries, learning their culture there, understanding every people's perspective, what are their needs, in order to have this bilateral meetings with them, in order to talk to them in a more in-depth context. You will be able to understand their needs, because sometimes their needs are also connected with their country's development.
Right.
So it might not be the common goals that they're looking into, but their own interest. But so it's very important to understand their interests and bridging the gap of what their common interest is, and then what is the global context is.
This is quite a learning curve.
It is a very hard learning curve, I would say.
When was the hardest moment for you?
I think the challenging moment is that when you realize that there are some barriers that as a youth you cannot bypass it. Like, in many ways, policymaker is still the core divisions for COP and for global governance, for climate. But how do you break through the gap, breaking through it, and bringing the voices of youth and making them see what are our needs? It's a hard thing. But I think we are making there. And now we are also having a lot of communication with policymakers. And I think one of a new breakthrough is implementation. So now I think policymakers are more lenient towards allowing youth to let us join some youth groups or youth UN related consultant groups. So they're allowing more youth to join these groups, and allowing youth to bring in their thoughts, but in the same time trying to implement. I think right now this is the new goal, is seeing the new implementation solutions, bringing case studies to the table.
When the idea is so clear, and when the goal is a definite, why we just cannot be united in order to achieve it? I always wonder about that. It's sometimes very frustrated.
It is, and I think it's not going to be solved. I think this frustration will continuously be there, but I think mainly it's because of the different needs and different measures of what every country put on their top 3. What are they doing? What are their needs? What they want? And I would say climate are not most of their top 3s usually. And so it is very hard to how we connect the other topics with climate. So for example, I could I could have a little introduction of one of our training programs that we do. Up to now, we have 2,000 students. But what we mainly work on the training program is, apart from just giving them basic climate education, what we do is we bring in the other topics, so such as finance, biodiversity, energy, fashion, even, and art recently, these current years. What are the connection with climate, and how could it be implemented? How could it be connected? Sometimes it might be like a negativity thing, but how could it be slowly diverted towards it? I think that's a lot of things that we're trying to do behind the scene, especially in the education perspective.
Well, some people watching our interview right now would say, well, Alice, she's coming from a well-off family. Well, she knows a lot of people, and she graduated from some of the best universities in the world. She also has a strong family to support. Well, she would say so. All the challenges can be resolved, but for us, it's different. Well, how would you respond to those people?
Well, the thing is that we're doing different things. I'm very grateful with my family. There's nothing to hide.
Yes.
And I'm not in the sense that I don't use my family resources. The resources are there, so of course I'm using it. And I hope that using the resources that I could have, the people around me, I could bring my job into a next level, a better forward. I think what I'm doing right now is more an impactful job. In some ways, it's a philanthropy. But I think there's a very different concept is that I am actually trying to bring a better world together. Yeah. But in the same time, maybe people listening to our interview, they are the people who are doing the actual green jobs. But I think it's fine because in our society, people have different roles. Right. So I think finding your own edge, your own angle, and doing the job that you like, that makes you happy, but in the same time makes you think that you are impactful. Right. You are being appreciated by the society.